How's it going, guys? I'm Mike Dwyer from the Bunker Recordings and BetterMixes.com, and today I want to talk to you about vocal effects, and more specifically, why you should be using delay instead of, or in addition to, reverb. So you're mixing a track, you get to the vocal, you get it sounding really good with EQ and compression and all of that, but you want to give it a sense of space and some depth. So what do? You reach for the reverb and crank it up. But today we're going to take a look at why that might not be the best option. So let's take a look at this idea in this track I've got here. This is actually a song that I'm mixing for a new course that I'm working on. You can learn more about that over at BetterMixes.com. But anyway, let's listen to part of the chorus with no effects on our vocal. So yeah, the vocal sounds pretty good, but without any effects on it at all, it feels very flat and just kind of separate from the mix. You know, it's sort of on top of everything else. It's not really sitting in it, and it feels very two-dimensional. So, like I said, in most cases, somebody would just grab a reverb and turn it on. Let's solo this up and bring our reverb in.
All that I want, all that I need, you take it all.
So at low levels like this, it's giving us a nice tail that kind of helps fill in the space in between the words. But during the time when she's actually singing, you can't really hear it or notice it, and it's not really giving us that 3D depth that we're looking for. So let's crank it up a little farther.
All that I want, all that I need, you take it all for me. All that I am.
So at this point, it is giving us that 3D feel. But even just in solo, it's already starting to feel a little bit muddy. Since the reverb's like a couple seconds long or whatever, you're hearing the reverb from a couple words back over top of the new stuff, and it's just getting kind of cloudy and muddy, and it's not super clear. Let's hear that in the context of the mix. So yeah, the same thing's happening there. The whole vocal is just feeling kind of cloudy, and it's actually being pushed back in the mix, which makes sense. That's kind of what reverb does. A lot of the time we'll use that for the purpose of pushing something back. But with our lead vocal, we want that right up front and center. So by having all this reverb on it, it's just kind of pushing it back, and it's really not sitting so great. And I hear this a lot in a lot of people's mixes, and to me it's kind of a sign of a more amateur mix. Because when you hear a really great mix, in most styles of modern music, the vocal is actually really dry, but it still has that 3D feel to it. And as you saw here, once we add enough reverb to get the 3D feel, it's just kind of like drenched in reverb, and we lose that modern upfront sound. So let's try something different. Let's turn on our delay. So let me bring up the plugin I'm using real quick, just so you can see what kind of settings I'm using. So I've got Valhalla Delay. This has been my absolute favorite delay ever since it came out, but you can do this with almost any delay. So don't think you have to go out and buy this one just because I'm using it here. So what we have set up here is I'm in dual mode, which means that there is a separate delay on the left and the right. And my left delay I have at 182 milliseconds, and my right delay is 224. There's nothing magical about these exact settings, but somewhere in this ballpark usually feels pretty good to me, somewhere around 180 and 220-ish. So they're both quite short, kind of just getting out of the range of a slapback delay. And the other key thing, besides them just being short, is that they're just a little bit different. So here, this would be 42 milliseconds different between the left and the right. But anywhere from, I don't know, maybe 20 to 50 or so should be cool. Just by having the left and right different, it's going to make it wide. I mean, if they were exactly the same, you would just have a mono delay. And how different they are is kind of going to determine how wide your delay sounds. If you're down at like the 20 millisecond difference between the left and the right, it's still going to be fairly wide, but as you go up, it gets wider and wider sounding. And then a couple more key settings on the delay is we have the feedback at 0, so that means each delay is only happening once. When the singer sings something, we'll get one repeat on the left and one on the right just behind it, and that's it. If we were to bring the feedback up and we would start getting more and more repeats, we'd be getting into that same problem we had with the reverb, where it was just starting to cloud everything up. And then the final thing I have going on here is just a little bit of filtering. Nothing too extreme, but I'm cutting out a little bit of bottom end and a little bit of top end, just to make the delay sound a little bit farther back. So let's hear what that sounds like on our vocal.
All that I want, all that I need, you take it all for me.
And let's hear just the delay. We'll take the dry vocal out so you can hear exactly what the delay is doing.
All that I want, all that I need.
And let's put that back to where it was, and let's hear that in the mix.
All that I want, all that I need, you take it all for me. All that I am, all that I'm not, you take it all for me.
So now we have that 3D feel, but without all the muddiness and the cloudiness that we were getting with the reverb. And the vocal doesn't really sound super affected like it did with the reverb. It still sounds fairly dry and upfront, but it's just sitting in the mix a lot better now. Now, sometimes I'll use a combination of this delay with a little bit of reverb, because the reverb will still give those nice tails when it's kept pretty low. And I might even use a couple extra delays on top of that. You can see in this session, I was playing around with a slap delay, and I think this was a quarter note delay. But to me, this one here is really like the reverb replacer, is sort of how I think of it. So in your next mix, try using a delay instead of a reverb, or in addition to a reverb on your lead vocal, and let me know how it goes. And I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And head on over to bettermixes.com to grab a free copy of my Ultimate EQ cheat sheet. Also, I just opened a new Facebook community, and I really want to make this one of the best audio-related communities on Facebook. But in order to do that, I'm going to need your help. So I have a link in the description down below. If you're interested, click on that to join.